Alright, so it's a gray day here in Northern California. Not a lot of wind though, which is good. So this is a perfect day to get out and experiment with subtle color shifts or subtle grays. So here is the scene I'm working from. There is some delicate color in the sky and also in the water. It's probably not going to show up very well on camera, but this is what I'm working with. Alright, once again I'm painting over an old panel, and I'm just going to scrub on some titanium white just to eliminate the previous painting. And this panel is an 11 by 22 inch panel. I've got a bunch of old 11 by 22 inch paintings that I'm not happy with, and I don't plan on painting this small in the future, so I'm not making new panels this size, just painting over the old paintings that I'm not pleased with. So I think that's good enough. That tones it down enough. Alright, so I think I'm going to go with a lower horizon today and feature the sky. Most of the time when I do these panorama seascapes, I go for a high horizon and, mostly focus on the water. But today, there's some nice light in the sky, so I'm going to go with a lower horizon. There's some rocks off in the distance here, very hard to see. They're so far away, but I'm thinking of including those. So I've just kind of sketched them in with the burnt sienna, just to see how I feel about it. It is nice to have some darks to kind of anchor the composition, so it's not just this high key piece with no structure. So something like that. And for the sky portion and the water portion, I'm not even going to sketch in anything. All right, so I've got a rock pattern here that I'm happy with, so I'm going to darken these rocks using a mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, which creates kind of a dark brown, but it's got some warmth to it, which I like. And I may try to leave some of the brighter bits of burnt sienna showing through. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to try not to go too dark with these rocks because there is quite a bit of atmosphere surrounding the rocks, a bit of mist. So I want to keep the value of the rocks maybe slightly darker than a mid-tone. Alright, so for the water I've got a mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and titanium white. And I'm paying attention to the value here. I want to make sure that this water is dark enough, the dark water here is dark enough so that the white water around the rocks will stand out. Wow, and the sun is coming out. I did use a straight edge for the horizon just because it is so difficult to get a straight line across a 22-inch panel. And so I keep the straight edge in my backpack for that very reason. Since I paint the ocean so much, it's nice to have that straight edge for horizons. And I will be adding subtle colors into this water as usual, and wave patterns as well. But for now, I just want to get the water established. And there's some white water out in this area and some beautiful blue greens that I will be featuring, even though this is a really small area of the painting. Hopefully by putting some saturated blue greens in this area, it'll sort of stand out. We'll see. There's some purple clouds or fog in the sky, and I'm going to establish those patterns first, just using ultramarine blue, titanium white, and a touch of dioxazine purple. And I'm paying attention to value. Want to make sure the value of these clouds is lighter than the water. I do need to leave a little bit of headroom so that I could paint lighter portions. Like there's some nice lighter aqua colors in this area. Alright, I've got a mixture of titanium white, phthalo blue, and some cadmium yellow lemon here. and just kind of covering the lighter portions. This color is not quite accurate, but that's all right. This is just a starting point to establish some of the lighter areas of the sky. And once the whole panel is covered, then I'll start becoming more specific about the colors. All right, so I'm going to put some of that saturated blue-green in this area here just to see how it looks, using phthalo blue, cadmium yellow lemon, and a little bit of titanium white. I think that looks all right. I want to keep it dark enough again that the white water around these rocks will stand out. All right, so I'm putting in some of the breaking waves out here, some of the white water, just because then I'll know what my lightest light is. I can't go any lighter than this titanium white that I'm applying, and I'm going with straight titanium white here. All right, so I am going to include a wave here. I think I'm only going to have one wave, and it's sort of coming in on an angle. The angle increases as the waves get closer to the shore. All right, now I'm adding a bit of blue-green to the base of the waves, and I'm definitely exaggerating the saturation in this area here. I've decided that I want a lot of color in this area so it stands out. All right, so I'm going to suggest some unbroken portions on this wave, and then maybe have a few darker areas in here as well. I want to be careful not to have a lot of straight lines. I think that's okay. Actually, I think I want to have this wave a little bit higher. Maybe like that. Maybe a little suggestion of it out here as well. All right, so I'm going to reinforce the darks using a mixture of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and a little bit of alizarin crimson. And the darkest portion of the rocks are right along the water line. And I'm using a number 4 synthetic flat. And I think I want to change the shape of this rock a little bit. There's a rock here in the foreground, and I want to create some separation from the background. So just darken the surrounding rocks. And I also want to change this line here. This is kind of awkward, and it's dark down here along the water line, as I mentioned. And something like that. All right, I've added some titanium white to the dark mixture here. Lighten it up a bit. I want to make sure that I don't make the rocks too dark in value. It's all going to seem darker when it gets indoors, so I'm keeping that in mind. And I'm trying to keep the brush loaded, keeping the paint a little bit thicker. I'm not using liquid, so no medium at this point. Just, you know, the thickness of the paint as it comes out of the tube. And I think I'll have this rock be a little bit warmer in temperature. That'll also help separate it from the rocks in the distance. Now trying to sneak in a little bit of pure alizarin. Nice to get a little red into the painting. All right, going with a slightly lighter value for this rock to separate it from the rocks in the distance. And I think maybe I'll add a few rocks in this area that are of the same value, just to break up this line. All right, so between the waves, there are sky reflections which are lighter in value. And by applying these, this will darken the waves. And I'm trying to apply some thicker loaded strokes over the thinner paint below, which I used, you know, more or less as a scrub in to cover the old painting. But I like the idea of having thick and thin. It's nice to have opposites in a painting, you know, thick and thin paint, light and dark, saturated, desaturated, that sort of thing. So we've got some desaturated colors in this area here surrounding these more saturated colors out at the point. I kind of like the light that I'm getting in the sky here, so I'm not going to do too much more to it. I don't want to lose that light effect, and I don't want to overwork this painting. So I'm also going into the sky with thicker paint and leaving little bits of the scrub in as well. But I don't think I'm going to do too much more to this. I think I like the spontaneous feel, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to overwork it. All right, so here is what I finished up with. The first thing I noticed when I got this painting home was how dark the darks are in the rocks. Usually I like to keep my darks transparent, but when I'm painting over an old painting, it's difficult to do that because you're trying to cover up the old painting. Now, when I'm painting on a new panel or canvas, you know, I like to have some of the white of the canvas or panel show through the transparent darks. But I do like the composition, and I like the light in the sky. The saturated bits right here are pretty small, so they don't really stand out. So maybe I'll go back and do a more zoomed in version. But overall, this was a fun painting to do. And like I said, I really do love experimenting on old panels. It sort of takes the pressure off and allows you to explore new ideas. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. It's the Patreon support that helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next video.